Good afternoon, everyone. Rob here from Nutridyne Europe again. Wow, lesson 8. How did this happen? Last one of the year on how to integrate nutrition into a practitioner's office via case studies. So for the next hour, Rob will be going over some case studies on different topics. As always, if anyone has any questions, please drop them in the questions box, and I'll come back at the end and ask your questions to Dr. Rob. So without further ado, over to Rob.
Hey, Rob, thanks so much. I actually neglected to share my screen. So if we can do that now, we'll get the slide deck up. Little technical difficulty on my end. I hope everybody's having a great time. Yeah, wow, 8, amazing. It's been great. We're pointing towards 2021. Just as an FYI, we'll remind you again at the end that we will be doing a webinar on an immune topic on January 21st at 2 o'clock. And that's really an update of where we are with COVID, how to still prevent it, what to do if somebody has it, what to do post-COVID, since more and more people have contracted COVID. And, let's use the nasty letter, the V word, those who are going to get vaccinated, what we want to do to keep their immune system robust, potent, etc. So we have that coming up, and I'm looking forward to that. I've been studying that since March. I'm here in New York as well, and we've had a lot of positives in that people have been positive with the virus. However, we're doing a great job within the immune system and the setting to allow people to go back to what we call a normal health setting. And that really ran the gamut, where some people who were virtually asymptomatic to people who were, on ventilators. So I'm happy to share that after the holidays with everybody. And if we can, let's dig in right now and really talk about the idea of how to integrate nutrition into a practitioner's office. That's a critical element. And as we go into our new normal of 2021, I can tell you that I believe that, and can see that through the numbers, that nutrition is growing exponentially. They're looking for people who have an answer. They're not looking just to buy online and speak to the internet. And I think it's a great bridge to those who listen, those chiropractors, those osteopaths, those naturopaths, and those integrated MDs, practitioners, and the like. It is without question saved my practice in a time when I couldn't see people in person, and also give me another venue on days that I'm not in the office, and also adjunct treatment while I'm in the office. So I've been doing this about 21 years, and I believe that one of the backbones of what I do in my treatment protocols is the integration of nutrition. So let's talk about a few things that I think are hot, if you will. The big takeaway today will be how to implement nutrition. SIBO, which is growing. When I heard leaky gut 24 years ago in chiropractic school, it was a novel idea. It is no longer a novel idea. We all have heard about it. We're just learning different ways to treat it. But SIBO is the new leaky gut. It's the next step after that. And of course, with the issues of the world right now, going to cover a little bit of anxiety and stress. So Hippocrates once said, everyone has a physician inside of him or her. We just have to help it in its work. The natural healing force with each one of us is the greatest force in getting well. And I mean, Hippocrates is one of the most well-known doctors, if not the ever. More so than that, it's really the idea of being able to fix the body from inside out, which really speaks to everybody's philosophy on this webinar. Globally, 1 in 5 deaths are associated with a poor diet. People benefit from rebalancing diets to eat an optimum amount of various food and nutrients. Poor diet contributes to a range of chronic diseases. Food is information. Food is health information. Food can be the source of inflammation. One of the backbones of what we do is try to change people's approaches and choices and educate them within foods. So body composition and health, one of the things that I use in my office is a body composition machine. It really tells me an awful lot. And, quite frankly, maybe that is a future webinar idea on how we just do the very basic thing of looking at body composition, visceral fat, superficial fat, and how we apply protocols and lifestyle changes to that. But one of the overriding themes is very simple. The young lady in the center needs to lose weight. Everybody always talks about the scale. Can't get it out of their head. And here you have a young lady on the left and the right that lost 20 pounds. The only problem is the scale indicated body weight. On the right, the unhealthy body composition, she lost all muscle. Yet, so she'll look a little thinner. The scale will say this, and she'll think, check, I did what was right. Whereas the young lady on the left lost 20 pounds and lost 19 of fat and only 1 of muscle. Her body composition vastly changed. She had all these good health markers, visceral fat went down. So one of the simple things that you can do for 2021 in your health hacks is not just measure their scale, measure their body composition and intrinsic compartments within their body composition. Reebok did a study, 26,000 days in a person's life, the average person lives. It was a 9-country study that revealed the humans spent less than 0.7% of their life exercising, clearly not enough. 41% now is spent engaging with technology, and about 30% of our lives is spent sitting down. Now, if I turned on my webcam, you would see that I started standing up, and I'll probably just sit down for the questions and the answers. The bottom line is, everybody's sitting and not moving too much, and sitting poses an issue. What happens when you sit too much? Again, another lifestyle hack. The muscles in your lower body turn off. They automatically adopt positions that shut off the trunk and the spine muscles. Psoas gets tight. The main hip flexor shuts off the glute. The erectors get tight, shut off your abs, and you've got what we call anterior pelvic tilt, leading to a compromised in body function, joint and soft tissue injuries. Here's an interesting factoid. Seated office workers have more musculoskeletal injuries than manual laborers. Here's a quick news flash. As of 2016, the American Medical Association recommended the avoidance of PPI medication because it may develop or prevent the development of dementia. The bottom line is stomach acid and stomach acid levels are an issue, and you're going to see that resonate when we talk about SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Tylenol. Tylenol depletes the body of glutathione. Glutathione, the master antioxidant. It also compromises brain function and increases the risk of making cognitive mistakes. Women who took it during pregnancy in 2014 study were more likely to have children medicated for ADHD by age 7. NSAIDs. One of my least favorite things that any patient can take. As a chiropractor, as a non-prescribing medical doctor, NSAIDs are very popular with that population. And unfortunately for them, I do find that inflammatory drugs like NSAIDs can lead down a path of leaky gut. We all know that leaky gut through previous webinars cause inflammation. NSAIDs do decrease pain, but they impair healing. Nutraceuticals, like we talk about, decrease pain, but promote healing. So there are a few that I recommend strongly. I did not include those in this talk. If Rob could be so kind to put in the chat, muscle ease, nerve ease, and inflammies and joint ease as options for NSAIDs, that would be great. In one little 35,000 foot view, there's an inverse relationship between methyl groups and histamine. Methylation deactivates histamine. Unfortunately, when you can't methylate, with 60% of people in the world can't methylate, histamine enhances what we call blood-brain barrier permeability. It also enhances gut permeability. The bottom line is NSAIDs can wreak havoc on your nervous system, your gut epithelial cells, and your blood-brain barrier. Antibiotics, which I believe is a no bueno, have an effect, an adverse effect on the gut microbiome. What they do is they have a quick reduction in the species diversity. More so than that, not just the species diversity, they do lead you down a path of leaky gut. They kill everything. For me, an antibiotic is what I call a carpet bomber. It's a nuclear bomb. It kills all bacteria. Now remember, we always want a good set of bacteria, in that the bacteria should be approximately 85% good versus 15% bad, or we have something that's called an unleveling of those two numbers, which is dysbiosis. Why doesn't the old healthcare model work? So many people have asked that. Well, I do believe it's antiquated, and I believe it's antiquated because now the primary driver of chronic disease is the interaction among genes, activities of daily living, and the environment. And I don't think that that is taken into account in the old healthcare model's armamentarium. The failure of some of the current modern treatments, caloric restriction, it's not about calories. You will see that shortly. It's a failure model. Why it fails is very simply, is compensatory mechanisms that defend against weight loss by decreasing energy expenditure and increasing appetite. The flaws are very simple. Multiple factors actually regulate our metabolism beyond just calories. Dietary composition of the calories, your microbiome status, toxins, infections, allergens, nutrient status, mitochondrial dysfunction, hormone and neurotransmitters, and last, your social standing. The real question that I ask all my patients, are all calories equal? And the answer to that is a resounding no. When you look at the right, look at the frappuccinos, look at the orange juices and the such. On the left, look at the broccoli. How many boxes and stalks of broccoli are you going to need to consume to get to a Starbucks frappuccino? So the shift should go from calorie counting to nutritional value. You got to stop counting calories. What you want to count is chemicals. Don't count calories, count chemicals. Don't count calories, count nutrients. Don't count calories, count satiety. Don't count calories, count absorbability. That doesn't mean you take out the calories and it doesn't matter. They can eat like Michael Phelps, 8 to 12,000 calories. Obviously that's too much, but the point is it's not just calorie. It's all the other things that you want to look at first. Always remembering that little example that I used before of a frappuccino or an orange juice versus stalks and boxes of broccoli. So here we have a little slide that really depicts the idea of a healthy gut versus a leaky gut. Healthy gut, basic idea is everything is able to pass the gut and get to the bloodstream that's supposed to, such as digested food particles, nutrients, water. However, if you have a leaky gut where you have a compromised tight junction, as an example, unfortunately, with that tight junction being compromised, you're going to have an increased release of immune cells. Pathogens are going to get through. Maybe the biggest culprit is undigested, large food particles. Those undigested food particles are not only going to put your immune cells on alert, they're going to lead you down a path of localized inflammation to systemic inflammation, possibly to autoimmunity through the process of molecular mimicry. And that will be depicted not just by the protein zonulin, more so also depicted by the release of antibodies. So that's a segue into talking about and trying to understand SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. We're going to look at the symptoms, the causes, the treatments, and specific strategies. SIBO, interestingly enough, it's excessive bacteria in the small intestine. Small intestine has relatively low levels of bacteria. The small intestine is the largest section of the digestive tract. It is where nutrients are absorbed in the bloodstream. It also is the spot where malabsorption of nutrients can occur. Once again, protein pump inhibitors can suppress stomach acid. SIBO often represents a breakdown in protective mechanisms. There are several built-in factors that prevent bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine. Foremost are digestive secretions of bile and digestive enzymes, along with the peristaltic contractions that move the food bolus through the small intestine. It actually goes from the stomach to the small intestine to the large intestine and then eliminated. A lack of enzymes, bile, or other digestive secretions, as well as the reduction in peristalsis, greatly increases an individual's risk of having bacteria or candida overgrowth and an intestinal infection, including chronic candida infections of the gastrointestinal tract. Another key barrier to bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine is the ileocecal valve that separates the colon from the small intestine. For me, it's more like a door. This mechanical barrier is designed to prevent too many of the bacteria residing in the colon entering the small intestine. This doorway, this flap, it's not a valve, is a critical element and overlooked in many medical models. Let's look at SIBO stats. Estimated about 11% of the population has IBS. 60 to 80% of that population has SIBO. It's estimated 550 million people worldwide suffer from SIBO. 1 in 9 in food poisoning lead to IBS. 60% of patients with diarrhea, IBS symptoms could be suffering from post-infection IBS. So people say, you know what? Hey, doc, I had an upset stomach, but it went away. I may have done some interesting damage, Hey, you know what? I had a bad day and I punched a hole or two in the wall in my house, but it's all right because the house is still standing up. That's why we have to put our detective hats on, be our Sherlock Holmes with our microscope, and really start evaluating the microscopic to macroscopic damage to the gut lining, because the gut is the epicenter of health. 80% of your immune cells are in your gut. Your small intestine houses approximately 10,000 bacteria per milliliter of fluid. The large intestine houses approximately 1 trillion bacteria per milliliter of fluid. The large intestine colon has a quantity and a variety of bacteria different from those of the small intestine. And that's one of the reasons why when the bacteria goes from the large to the small intestine, chaos sets in. The primary function of colonic bacteria, large intestine, is fermentation of non-digestible carbs, all resulting in what I like to refer to as a postbiotic short chain fatty acid, butyrate being the gold medal winner. All of this can stimulate the epithelial growth and regeneration in the colonic epithelium. Here are some symptoms that patients who have SIBO will exhibit. Now understand, many of these are very similar to leaky gut: nausea, bloating, vomiting, diarrhea, malabsorption, weight loss, joint pain, fatigue, rashes, acne, asthma, depression. Think about the prevention of SIBO. I always like to look, and this isn't a 35,000 foot view. This may be a 50,000+ foot view. I always like to look at the gut in a north to south concept. Whatever's on top will trickle down, and that keeps it very linear for everybody in their office and linear for the patient to understand. The prevention of SIBO, if it's above the small intestine, you can clearly look at the pancreas, but even more so, you can look at the stomach. Hydrochloric acid is a critical element. I think that we underutilize the idea of hydrochloric acid and underutilize the concept of supplementing of hydrochloric acid. Within the small intestine, pancreatic enzymes, which are below the stomach, above the small intestine, and bile acids, typically coming from the gallbladder, will help prevent overgrowth. An intact GI immune function will be depicted in what we call a secretory IgA test. When you go below, going south, the small intestine, you're now looking at the ileocecal valve and the migrating motor complex. I will depict and explain the migrating motor complex in a few of the succeeding slides. SIBO recurrence rate, it's a beast. It's gnarly, as they say in the West Coast in the United States. The rate is 12.6% at 3 months, 27.5% at 6 months, 44% almost at 9 months. Common SIBO relapse timeframes is about 2.5 months unless the underlying cause is treated. Now everybody stop. The beeping red light is here. It's all about root cause resolution. SIBO, interestingly enough, patients with SIBO tend to have altered secretory IgA values, demonstrating that SIBO directly alters immune activity in the gut. Now, the immunoglobulin or secretory IgA is an antibody playing a critical role in mucosal immunity and is produced in greater quantities than all other types of antibodies combined. In its secretory form, secretory A or IgA is the main immunoglobulin found in mucus secretions and provides protection against potentially pathogenic microbes due to its ability to resist denigration by enzymes and survive in harsh environments such as the GI and the respiratory tracts. Lastly, secretory IgA is the first line of defense against bacteria, food residues, yeast, parasites, and viruses, and imbalances may provide the link between gut imbalances and systemic illness. So one of the more common tests, and this would be a whole conversation would be the hydrogen methane breath test. It's a common method of assessing SIBO. Hydrogen has a greater association with diarrhea, methane almost an exclusive association with constipation. And now comes the migrating motor complex. As you all know, and I'll show you again, I have a book coming out approximately May of 2021. Rob is one of my beta readers. He's going to be taking a look at sections of chapters over the next few weeks. Sorry about that during Christmas, but you know, there's no rest for the weary. Nevertheless, the migrating motor complex is highlighted in what we call a sidebar gray box. It is, without question, allows the functions to move of the contents from the stomach to the small intestine to the large intestine. It interestingly is stimulated by fasting, inhibited by feeding, and the migrating motor complex stops and resets when you eat. The vagus nerve, which we've discussed, and again, we can have a whole vagus nerve webinar if you're interested. Vagus nerve is essential for proper migrating motor complex function. Motilin, hormone released by cells in the jejunum and the duodenum, is involved in interdigestive, which is a fasting state for the migrating contractions. It's involved in clearing out the gut in preparation for the next meal. We like to refer to it as the housekeeper of the gut. It contracts gallbladder also. And the migrating motor complex is broken up into 3 specific phases. Phase 1, no motility contractions, 55% of total gastric cycle. Phase 2, irregular low amplitude contractions do not propel contents. 41% of the gastric cycle, GI rumbling, may be associated. Phase 3, we call this the activity front, contributes to only 4% of the total gastric phase. It acts to sweep the luminal contents, such as the stomach into the duodenum, small intestine into the colon. It has a secretory component where you have increased motility, increased acid and pepsin secretion, and a pH change. The dysfunction or absence of phase 3 is associated with SIBO. SIBO has been broken down by several different people into what we call 4 underlying causes. We're going to gloss through these. Number 1 is for the migrating motor complex. This is one that I find is tremendously important. Cytolethal distending toxin. I have a few slides. We're going to talk about this so you have a better idea what can cause leaky gut and SIBO, or what can cause SIBO and leaky gut. TBI, concussions. 60% of people who receive a concussion, typically in several studies, have shown to have SIBO. When you hit your head, you damage your gut, and that is mainly through the vagus nerve, but also through specific hormones and chemical irritants in the bloodstream. Some of the other motility issues, we just mentioned vagus nerve, diabetes, chronic stress, mold and microtoxins, mast cell activation, which I think is going to be a big conversation in 2021, and VIP, which is neuropeptide that functions as a neuromodulator and a neurotransmitter. Underlying causes of SIBO, impaired digestion. Of course, you're going to have impaired digestion. If you have a decrease in vagus nerve tone, you're going to have a decrease in bile flow, stomach acid, pancreatic enzymes. And quite frankly, I probably should put them in different order if I'm looking at a north to south movement. Number 3, impaired digestive flow through intestines, endometriosis. The big ones, ileocecal valve, very common. Scar tissue and adhesion, C-section, gallbladder removal, all these things that can cause a visceral adhesion to the area, commonly seen and addressed by manual therapists, chiropractors, naturopaths, acupuncturists, and the like. Something everybody should please make note of. Medications. We all know medications can slow digestion and allow bacteria to grow. Opiates, thyroid medications, antidepressants, PPI, as we said before, and of course, frequent antibiotic use. So before we dig into the bactericidal toxins, I just wanted to make sure I hadn't seen anybody do anything yet. Feel free to ask questions. We're going to end about 7 minutes early. We've got some special people on today, and I want them to be able to ask some implementable questions so you guys can have some takeaways. If you have to go over a couple of minutes, it's not a problem, but I really want questions give us some feedback, give us a thumbs up at the end if you like it. And again, feel free to inquire. Rob will pop his mic on, and between the two of us, we will answer a whole bunch of questions because I think there'll be some tools that you'll want to access. So here we're looking at the bacterial cytotoxins. You know, cytolethal distending toxin B. My graphic designer did a great job. Look at those evil, ugly eyes. Whereas cytolethal distending toxin C and A, they have the ability to attach to receptors on the surface of the intestinal epithelial cells. Cytolethal distending toxin is 10 times more inflammatory than LPS, lipopolysaccharide, and endotoxin. This guy is one bad hombre, if you will. Now, when you take a look at this, let's look at the big picture. It shows how if coliform bacteria was in the small intestine, the mechanism of action is a displaced bacteria, damage the intestinal barrier, leading us down the road of possible autoimmunity. Cytolethal distending toxin, you know, by E. coli undergoes endocytosis. It then attacks the cytoskeleton proteins. It then enters the submucosal space. Cytolethal distending toxin assisted breakdown of the tight junctions results in the release of bacterial cytotoxins and cytoskeleton proteins and the penetration of food antigens. Antibody production against these molecules can result in immunological activity within the gut and beyond. So here's another way to look at it. These cytolethal distending toxins function as a virulent factor by targeting host defense in 4 different manners. It does so by barrier damage at the gut level. It does so at the blood-brain barrier level by induction of neuronal cell death. It has a promotion of pro-inflammatory markers like interleukin, NF-kappa B, and TNF-alpha. And lastly, it also promotes antibody productions of B and T cells, antibodies with low neutralizing capacity. Here are some of the tests here. I don't think you can get them, but there are tests. You may have a different lab that really can depict blood labs as an option to the breath test, depicting if you have cytolethal distending toxin and damage to epithelial cells. So let's get the SIBO protocol. I'm all about the protocol. I want to share that with you. The small intestine, remember, should be typically high in bile acids. These do in fact decrease bacterial growth. This does not apply to our good bacteria though, as they are resistant to antimicrobial effects of bile. Bile also helps regulate or initiate the migrating motor complex, the process that sweeps the intestinal clean in between meals. It is the antimicrobial properties of bile that help to keep the terrain of the small intestine clean and preventing bacteria from colonizing the small intestine. Having insufficient bile production and flow can contribute to SIBO, also known as small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Bile is a soap-like substance that aids in the emulsification of fats while also having antimicrobial properties. So the findings are interesting in this study. So many people have said, don't give a probiotic while you have SIBO. I disagree vehemently with that. The study was probiotic supplement actually effectively decontaminated SIBO. It helped relieve abdominal pain. And more so than that, the conclusion was pooled analysis found probiotics remarkably effective for the treatment of SIBO. This study talked about Aspergillosis for SIBO. Aspergillosis groups had a decrease in diarrhea, abdominal pain, gas, bloating, and flatulence. Why Aspergillosis? Aspergillosis is a yeast that functions like a bacteria. So there's no issue to take it. Here is your one probiotic that you, without question, can take at any time. Aspergillosis, because it's a yeast-based probiotic. So here's your SIBO protocol as we continue with phase 1. Zinc carnosine, a hidden gem, has a mucosal protective property. Zinc lessens the exercise-induced gut permeability. It also increases epithelial resistance and enhanced tight junction formation and stabilization. So I'm a big proponent of taking zinc carnosine, preferably on an empty stomach. We're going to get to the FODMAP. I don't like the FODMAP, and the reason I don't like the FODMAP is there's a lot of them. It's really hard to determine which one you want to give to your patient. So for me, I like the ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diet is much easier to adhere to. Ketogenic diet does keep the carbohydrates low, and I do like to keep carbohydrates low when somebody has a compromise of the gut in the gut-to-brain axis. The FODMAP is an acronym. It's fermentable, the F. The O, oligosaccharides. D, disaccharides. M, monosaccharides. And polyols, sugar alcohols. Phase 2 in the next 30 days. Very simply, you're going to be speaking about using beta-HCl and pepsin. Insufficient output of digestive enzymes from pancreas is associated with many symptoms associated with SIBO and may represent a key underlying factor in many cases. Digestive enzymes are also most likely a host defense mechanism within the gut that prevent the formation of biofilm. That's why I've included amylase, lipase, protease, SOD catalase, and the like. And continuing with phase 2, this is the time that I like to use a dairy-free probiotic, which I will detail for you shortly. I also like a medical food or a powdered nutritional support that has strategic macro and micro nutrients. And of course, always adhere to the modified elimination diet or the diet that was chosen for that patient. I can tell you if you've had SIBO, and remember, it repeats, it comes back, it reoccurs, you want some ongoing care for health. And I'm going to go through all the products and protocols in one moment. So you want to continue. This is the critical element. Always want to continue with bile salt, ox bile with each meal. You want to continue with your powder, and you want to continue with your probiotic like an Aspergillosis, L-plantarum, and a Bacillus subtilis. Here's another study that when I saw was, if you will, almost a capstone moment for me. The effect of 4 probiotics on the symptoms of patients with IBS in association with SIBO. The 4 probiotics were as follows: Aspergillosis, B. lactis, Lactobacillus acidophilus, and Lactobacillus plantarum. So if you took those 4 probiotics without SIBO, you had a 10.6% increase in health. Not bad. However, if you had SIBO, 71.3%. The 71.3% improvement in symptoms of IBS in patients with SIBO versus 10.6% with IBS without SIBO. Take probiotics. The benefits of probiotics are greater among patients with pro-inflammatory cytokine pattern in the duodenal fluid. The first study to demonstrate superior clinical efficacy of probiotics in patients with IBS with SIBO. So let's take a look at the protocol. If you have any questions, Rob can help you out with procuring any of these. Let's look at Digestive Complete. Digestive Complete is a nutritional supplement to help support healthy digestion and absorption of nutrients. Enzymes help break down proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids in digestive system. I call this a 3-in-1. What you have in here is you have the ox bile, the taurine to really help with bile flow. You've got the beta-HCl, which is great for stomach acidity, and you have a tremendous enzyme blend of protease, amylase, lipase, and of course that pepsin. So you're really looking at the pancreatic. So going north to south, it has enzymes for the stomach, the pancreas, and to help with bile flow. So it's a 3-in-1. Many patients say, I have to take 3 bottles. That poses an issue. In this particular formulation, you have a 3-in-1. I use this regularly in my office. Spectrum AR. Aromatic oils, airway, remember, oregano, thyme, clove leaf, ginger. Spectrum AR is a highly potent nutritional supplement, blending oils and extracts from the aromatic mint family along with ginger and cloves. Thyme oil and ginger extract are the dominant ingredients known for their aid in digestion. The unique and specific combination of extracts and oils contained in Spectrum AR helps support the health of gastrointestinal tract based on the powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Spectrum BR, bowel dysbiosis, the train wreck patient, that patient that is compromised, berberine is the big takeaway there. Spectrum BR is a high potency nutritional supplement to support the health of gastrointestinal and respiratory tracts. The herbal extracts contained in Spectrum BR are typically used in Chinese medicine for their powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Aspergillosis, spoken about before, yeast. that functions as a probiotic. Melatonin. Why melatonin? Not just for sleep. Melatonin has shown to decrease the expression of LPS, which of course causes leaky gut, which can lead you down a path of SIBO. And zinc carnosine to help with the tight junctions. Digestive Complete is going to be continued because you want that digestion in those bile acids and ox biles in phase 2. Lipocomplex is an enzymatic aid, mainly functioning in the digestion of fats, but also proteins and carbohydrates. The components for fat digestion are ox bile, which stimulates lipase release, and green beet leaf powder, which promotes the free flow of bile from the gallbladder, as well as carbohydrates and fat enzymes. It's also, if you will, having some proteases. This is really doubling down on the digestion. The Spore Probio, one of my favorite products. The Spore Probio is interesting in that it has a spore probiotic, Bacillus subtilis. It also has what I call one of the most potent prebiotics in XOS, xylo-oligosaccharides, the only known probiotic that solely feeds good bacteria. And we're going to go over it a little later in the gut. I'm going to highlight it. It has bacterial phages. The GI or GI Restore. GI Restore is the, if you will, the meal, the snack, the powder for nutritional support for healthy GI function. It helps support gastrointestinal integrity, gut flora balance, healthy digestive function, healthy immune function, and healthy nutrient absorption. What's interesting about the GI is a lot of people always question, hey, I got to take a powder. How does it taste? Tastes good. And there's your Digestive Complete. Once again, the GI Restore. And here is your, let's look at the daily multi-strain. Essentially, the daily multi-strain for me is a full spectrum, 3 upper, 4 lower bacteria that can populate the whole intestinal tract. And as I said, I wanted to talk about the Spore Probio. I wanted to talk about the idea of bacterial phages. Bacterial phages are quite interesting in that they kill a specific species of bacteria. In the 30s, they had the option in the medical field to take the antibiotics and the bacterial phages. They chose the antibiotics because 1, at the time it was cheaper, and 2, because being a nuclear weapon or a carpet bomber, it killed everything. However, the bacterial phages now are perfect for what we call antibiotic resistant bacteria. And they come in and they're able to not only get in, they get in by their tail into the bacterial cell. They drop their DNA through the head, they populate in the cell, and they explode the cell. They are great for creating a health promoting ecosystem in your gut neighborhood. So which factors protect against SIBO? Well, you can see them right there. Pancreatic and biliary secretions, gastric acid, keeping your mucosal immune system in place, making sure the migrating motor complex works appropriately, and making sure the valve, the doorway between the small and large intestine, the ileocecal valve, is intact. Leaky gut and leaky blood-brain barrier. Intestinal release of LPS and cytolethal distending toxin can be transported in the blood from a patient with leaky gut and can enhance immune cell and viral transport across the blood-brain barrier, leading to more extensive damage. Leaky gut can lead you down a path of autoimmunity, so can SIBO. So here it is in a nutshell. Intestinal permeability, systemic bacterial toxins lead to blood-brain barrier permeability, ultimately leading to neuroautoimmune reactivity. Here's some quick clinical pearls, 2020 clinical pearls. A brief gut program or detox usually isn't enough. The sickest patients often need to go and retreat the gut. Most patients need more detox than they think. And if you're going to test, the type of antibody and the levels will help guide you. So I'd be amiss if I didn't share this with you. Here is my Super 7 action plan. This is what Rob's reading over the weekend, 4 chapters in my book as a main answer to the gut. Number 1, the reset. Reset what? Reset your diet, reset your lifestyle, reset your environment. You also can supplement the time with aspartate, medium chain triglyceride oil, which initially people just thought was potent for the brain, but it also has a gut promoting or a gut health promoting function. Magnesium, most people are deficient in magnesium, magnesium glycinate, You're going to remove all the toxins. You're going to remove all the bad bacteria. You're already started on your diet. So your spectrum AR, your spectrum BR, your garlic. And at that time, I like to simultaneously also detox toxins, replace stomach acid, pancreatic enzymes, biles. You're going to do so by adhering and using a digestive complete. Regenerate. You're going to regenerate by what we talked about before with powder. I like to take a scoop of the GI Restore and a scoop of the Dynamic Integrity. The Dynamic Integrity has a few different ingredients, including L-glutamine, glucosamine HCl, zinc, DGL licorice, apple pectin, aloe vera, cypripedium, and mucin, as well as herbal extracts. So you're going to use the Dynamic GI Integrity because it's ideal nutritional formula for those looking to support the GI tract in a healthy and herb-based manner. The combination works really well. We also have pro-resolving mediators, PRMs. In a nutshell, we've discussed it before, pro-resolving mediators allow for the resolution of inflammation and the homeostasis of the initiation to the resolution of inflammation. Omega Pure EPA 2400, omega-3 fatty acids, alpha lipoic acid, a hidden gem, D3 5000 with K2, great for overall health. There are receptor sites in the gut for vitamin D. You want to reinoculate. Again, you reinoculate with your Spore probiotic and your ultrabiotic daily multi-strain. You want to reintroduce certain foods, whether you just took them out or whether you did a food sensitivity testing. You want to avoid the GPS, no gluten, no processed food, no sugar. DNA, no dairy, no nicotine, no artificial sweeteners, fried foods, and any food still tested allergic to, but more so sensitive to. Super 7 action plan. Go on their lifestyle. Well, here it is. Diet, lifestyle, mindset. Continue with that. Continue with the powder Dynamic GI Restore. Take your probiotic or 2 probiotics. Get a Dynamic fruits and greens drink in there. You need your fruits and greens. 20 fruits and greens, organic fruits and greens are a great takeaway. And Dynamic Multi-Collagen, collagen 1, 2, 3. 1 and 3 are known for skin, hair, and nails and gut. 2 is cartilage. 5, 10, and 15, which is also included in there, is great for tendons and soft tissue structures. So we know that 2/3 of patients have symptoms of diseases that are gut related. This is where the outside world and where we can often manifest a physiological change. The most important reason to focus on the gut. The most effective clinical outcomes across all disease spectrums can result from the normalization of gut function. So the real question is, do you have a better answer? And we have about 15 minutes left before questions. I'm going to pick the pace up because I'm going to get you to the finish line. Absolutely. The answer is functional medicine. What is functional medicine? Functional medicine is used to address underlying causes of chronic disease by examining all the systems contributing to the patient's problems. These systems include digestion, immune and inflammation, detoxification, genetics, oxidative stress, nutrition, and endocrine. Because you're going to look at antecedents, you're going to look at triggers, and you're going to look at mediators. The functional medicine orientation, systems, not symptoms. Personalize it for that patient. Try and get to the root cause of the etiology, and of course, a collaboration. And the collaboration may be between practitioners, but the collaboration is more so with the patient. Functional medicine, inflammation, and chronic pain. Is this a new modality for you? Here's your takeaway. Treat the system, not the symptom. Disregarding the underlying causes and treating only risk factors is somewhat like mopping up the floor around an overflowing sink instead of just turning the faucet off. You're never going to get ahead. The functional medicine model is a 4P model: predictive, preventive, personalized, participatory. I partake in the medicine of etiology, not symptomology. So the real question, and here's the answers: how do you end chronic disease? Get to root cause resolution. And that's the crux. Functional medicine, the premise is getting to the root cause, because I adhere to a functional medicine diagnosis and a functional nutrition protocol. A couple of quick ideas with that. I wanted to put this in, the idea of a disc injury. Essentially, the takeaway is that if you move at your hips, you're not going to damage and strain the discs in your lower back. So you have to keep a strong core and a hip hinge move. Otherwise, you'll be releasing inflammation at a biochemical level because of poor movements. Some biomarkers in lower back pain. People don't think there's anything you can test for. There are standard biomarkers: C-reactive protein, interleukin-6, and TNF-alpha. If you do an inflammatory panel, you're going to be able to ascertain if someone's going to have lower back pain or has had lower back pain. Interesting, intervertebral disc degeneration has shown that if there's a release of interleukin or IL-1 beta, higher incidence of disc degeneration. So how would you diagnose lower back pain? Well, without question, definitely do a profile looking for circulating cytokines. They can help assist in diagnosing those with low back pain. Put that in. I'm a chiropractor, so I still get the questions on lower back pain. Failed healing of rotator cuff repair. And remember, I had told Rob if he could put in the links to all the different things. One of the biggest links would be obviously something called the joint ease, because as long as you can decrease the expression of matrix metalloproteinases, your body's own proteolytic enzymes, which are released at the time of injury, you'll have a better outcome post-rotator cuff repair. But the big idea, and what I wanted to resonate, I believe in 2021 is the big problem is the body attacks itself, and it does so through pathogens. They can be viruses, they can be bacteria. The release of associated antigens. You get inflammation and ultimately a breakdown in barriers. You get the activation of T cells, macrophages, and B cells. You get pro-inflammatory cytokines and antibody production, ultimately leading to inflammation and autoimmune reactivity. There are 3 quick stages of autoimmunity. Number 1, silent autoimmunity, where elevated antibodies but no symptoms or loss of function. Stage 2, autoimmune reactivity, elevated antibodies with symptoms and loss of function, but no severe destruction of the tissue associated with disease. And number 3, autoimmune disease, elevated antibodies and significant symptoms, signs, labs, imaging, and special studies associated with. My takeaway, I don't think Rob has seen this before. I'm target the fire, but I never target the smoke. So let's talk about stress as we get to the finish line. People need a better support because they have decreased sleep onset. They want something that promotes healthy sleep quality, supports mood, and supports free radical scavenging activity. Good night supplementation. Interestingly enough, the ingredients in Good Night are dosed in a manner that is simpatico with what research suggests to be effective and safe, particularly for promoting restful sleep. Clinical evidence and research actually show the ingredients will do what we aforementioned and help you get a better night's sleep. Sleep is critical because it is the component where we humans are able to recover. We're able to increase our immune resilience. Our cells will rejuvenate. It's when our metabolic waste in our brain is able to detox. Sleep is probably one of the biggest complaints that I get, especially now through these stressful times. In America, the number is 70 million. About 22% of Americans have reported sleep issues. We can also talk about stress essentials, and it's called Stress Essentials Adrenal B1B6. It's a micronutrient support for healthy adrenal function. This product is a comprehensive micronutrient formula to support healthy adrenal function by promoting healthy stress response. Chronic stress may lead to the feelings of fatigue and anxiety, but key vitamin, minerals, and antioxidants may help your body cope with stress. The reason I'm including the actual product is I've been getting a bunch of emails and people want me to tell you what I use, so I'm sharing it with you. It's my holiday gift. This product helps promote healthy adrenal function, supports balanced stress-related fatigue, helps healthy energy production, promotes healthy immune function, and supports healthy response to oxidative stress. Here you have a Stress Essentials Balance. Interestingly enough, Stress Essentials Balance will help promote healthy adrenal function, support healthy stress response, support balanced stress-related fatigue, and support cognitive function and healthy mood. Stress Essentials Relax is interesting in that it supports healthy GABA glutamate balance, supports relaxation and tranquility, supports cognitive function and healthy mood. Serenity, which is probably the #1 seller out of my Stress Essentials. The two are Serenity and Balance. This particular product reduces the effects of the aging process, helps in supporting cardiovascular health, promote cognitive performance and brain health, and support sleeping habits and patterns. We are perfectly positioned. We are perfectly positioned for a big 2021. Here are some easy implementable steps to make that position optimized for patient outcomes and ROI, if you will. I believe we should all try and grow a functional medicine or a functional nutrition practice. Adding functional nutrition to your armamentarium leads to predictably positive patient outcomes and better practice revenue. Office staff, staff training, and patient management flowcharts can be and should be implemented. We all always have to remember that nutrition is like shoes. No one size fits all. Yes, we should eat organic whole food, but it's the individuality that we're looking for, the personalized lifestyle idea, which is the critical element for patient outcomes. For me, I was quoted as saying, I went on a TV program and I said, there's no lottery ticket for your health. So how do you integrate functional nutrition? Number one, you examine the presenting patient complaints. 90% of your diagnosis comes from patient inquiry. It's not just what they say, it's what you look at. Then you have a subjective questionnaire to help doctor identify underlying issues. We are now updating that subjective questionnaire. I've been doing it for about 6 months worth of patients. And in that questionnaire, we're going to have what we call a health appraisal questionnaire or health appraisal. I think it'll be newly named, which will lead you down a path of a number way of charting what they come in with and where you take them to, because the numbers, pictures resonate for the patient. You want to get a list of additional objective testing options, whether you're testing the gut, whether you're testing food sensitivities, you're just doing inflammatory markers. You then want a flowchart to help the doctors create the protocol. The protocol is to enable the doctors to make more confident recommendation. And without question, you want a script for the staff to reinforce recommendations. So a nutritional consult, when somebody calls on the phone or inquires, I understand the mantra in UK is a little different than America, but nevertheless, there's certain commonalities. You always want to express value, not price. You want to talk about the doctors or the practitioner's credentials and attributes. Our program is based on structure, education, and motivation. Dr. X is an expert in clinical nutrition. We have an excellent support team to help you with the changes you may need to make in order to achieve your goals. The consult should include, or some ideas of including, a thorough history, a comprehensive nutritional test, a body fat, I use it in body analysis, pH testing, zinc testing, blood lab evaluations. These are just some of the ideas that you can include. One of my pet peeves, one of the things that I find most helpful is send to an office prior to an appointment, emailed or faxed, that new patient intake form so I can review it. It's very hard to ask a patient who's in an emergency injury to do it in advance, but a nutrition patient, you want them to correlate some things. For instance, a 3 to 5 day dietary intake food journal, what they eat and why. I just found out that somebody who had a gastrointestinal issue was drinking Gatorade regularly and thought that was good because a doctor recommended it. Any supplements or medication they're currently taking. You may want to look. You may want to see that they may be taking a supplement, and that supplement may have a lot of binders and emulsifiers, all bad for gut health. You want a recent copy of their blood work or test results, whether it was one that was very evocative or one that was not as revealing. Missed appointment, can't stand, it's tough when people miss. You call within 15 minutes of a missed appointment at the staff, reschedule. Tone is very key. Always have them smile when speaking. Here are some of the questions you may want to ask. Do you have enough products to get you through until your next appointment? Can you think of anything you may run out of between now and then? It is important that you continue with the products, the dosage that the doctor has prescribed for you. Social media, here are some ideas. Number one, you don't have to go anywhere. The people in front of you are all prospective new patients for nutrition. Social media, there's a website, there's Google, there's SEO, there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's Pinterest, there's all these different things. As we get to that proverbial finish line that I've talked about, please keep an eye out. Like I said, Rob's reading some chapters. We're re-editing. It's going to go to bind after the first of the year. The name of the book is The Superhighway to Health, 7 Steps to Optimizing the Gut-Brain Connection. The meaning of life, I always like to end with a quote, is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. It's one that I use all the time, especially in different functional medicine mantras. The meaning of my life, somebody help me. Somebody help me. In this genre, people will help you. They will touch you, and you will be imbued with enthusiasm to go on a course for functional medicine, functional nutrition, and help others through lifestyle modifications. The purpose of life is to give it away. I have been webinar bound since March. Book, blog. We're going to do a Facebook Live. We're still going to go trek through the snow to get to patients. And tonight, after I work out, we're getting on our book. And then, of course, I always allot 90 minutes to read at the end of the day. The gift that I got was the gift that I want to share. And you'll feel the same way when you implement some of the things that we're talking about. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me, I have a great Facebook group on a Mastermind Laser group. We're going to be doing some things in 2021 with them. There's my website. Please follow me on Facebook. If you like what you heard, let me know. We've got about 4 minutes left, and I know we have some questions, so Rob's going to come on and share them with me.
Hi again. Thanks very much, Dr. Rob, for that webinar. Before I forget, the next webinar, it's not on our website just yet, but it'll be the 21st of January, and that's going to be an immune support webinar, like an update. We may reference COVID-19 in that. So yeah, that'll be 2 till 3 o'clock UK time, 21st of January, immune support. Right, question number 1. Can taking a probiotic without knowing the bacterial profile be counterproductive and create imbalance?
Excellent question. I can understand how you feel. We are, or at least I am, a proponent of always testing, treating, and then reassessing. However, I don't know if you have one there that's at your access. I can't see how you're going to hurt somebody with an Aspergillosis and a Bacillus subtilis.
Cool. Question 2. When is the best time of day to take probiotics, and do you take them on an empty stomach?
That is the question. And with the idea of an empty stomach, I think if you got 10 practitioners in a room who are gut experts, 5 would say empty stomach, 5 would say full stomach. There's no data to indicate either one. Here is my approach. I prefer to take the bulk of my vitamins, supplements, unless otherwise indicated, with or after food, and probiotics would fall into that category.
Cool. How do you use laser therapy to improve MMC?
Great question. Well, come to one of our upcoming laser collaborations, but the real answer is I do a lot of vagus nerve with a violet light, 405 violet light. If you just go on one of my Facebooks or my YouTube channel, you'll actually see the demonstration of it. But I do use laser therapy, and I found it to be extraordinarily effective.
Cool. Is it still necessary to take foundation nutritional supplements like multis alongside the 7-hour program?
I would, without question, take the fruits and greens, because the fruits and greens will enable you to obviously get 20 fruits and greens. It's also a great taste enhancer. Not that anything doesn't taste good in the Nutridyne line, but it'll enhance the taste. Also, it enhances the pH, which is a critical element as you want to detox during your gut protocol. So you could take the essential multi. That's not a problem. But without question, I would circle and anchor to the fruits and greens.
Thank you. And finally, what is the best way to increase DHEA levels? Now, we can't supplement, or we can't sell this supplement or give it as practitioners in the UK. So is there any other way of increasing DHEA?
Yeah, I mean, since you can't do the supplement, you're going to laugh. Good old-fashioned intense exercise. The study says 11 minutes.
Perfect. That wraps up the questions. I'd just like to thank you again, Dr. Rob, for this webinar, but also all the other webinars that you've done for us this year. Been really informative. Thank you to everyone that's listened. And I hope everyone that celebrates it, have a great Christmas break, and we'll see you again in 2021. If anyone has any questions, feel free to either email Dr. Rob or email myself at any time. Thanks a lot, guys. Speak to you soon.
Happy holidays.